that layeth up treasure for himself, and is not rich toward God. The distinction between sins and mistakes is important in our actions in the realm of politics and public policy debates. We have seen some very bitter finger-pointing among Latter-day Saints who disagree with one another on the policies our government should follow, the political parties we should support, or the persons we should elect as our public servants. Such disagreements are inevitable in representative government. But it is not inevitable that disagreements would result in the personal denunciations and bitter feelings described in the press or encountered in personal conversations. When we understand the difference between sins and mistakes, we realize that almost all of our disagreements in elections and public policy debates are matters of error, mistake, rather than transgression or sin. The inspired direction for such differences of opinion is to try to correct the errors by pointing them out in civil discourse, but not to chasten or denounce as sinners those we think have committed them. Of course, there are some public policies so intertwined with moral issues that there may be only one morally right position, but that is rare. In a recent interview with the press, President Howard W. Hunter said that one of our objectives as a church is to change the world and its thinking. Identifying how we need to go about that task, President Hunter said, "We have an obligation as Christians, as members of the church, and we call upon all people to be more kind and considerate, whether it be in our homes, in our businesses, in our relations, in society." Concluding his plea, he said that we have a responsibility to teach a Christ-like response to all the problems of the world. Understanding and applying the distinction between sins and mistakes will help us fulfill that divinely imposed responsibility. The scriptures and our leaders have also taught us principles that require a loving approach to those with whom we have any kind of disagreement on matters of religious belief. In one of the great prophecies that concluded his ministry, the prophet Nephi described the false churches of the last days that would teach false and vain and foolish doctrines. He denounced many of their followers for obvious wickedness, including robbing the poor and committing whoredoms. Then he referred to another group, an exceptional few who were the humble followers of Christ. Note the words he used to describe these two groups. They have all gone astray, save it be a few, who are the humble followers of Christ. Nevertheless, they are led that in many instances they do err, because they are taught by the precepts of man. Here we see that when humble followers of Christ are led astray by the precepts of man, their offense is error, not transgression. Elder George A. Smith applied that principle in an address delivered in the Tabernacle in Salt Lake City in 1870. Referring to honest persons in the Christian world at the time of the Restoration who had been led astray as to doctrine, he used the word error and indicated that the Lord would be very merciful to them. Quote, "There were, however, honest persons in all of the denominations, and God has respect to every man who is honest of heart and purpose, though he may be deceived and in error as to principle and doctrine. Yet so far as that error is the result of their being deceived by the cunning craftiness of man, or of circumstances over which such have no control, the Lord in his abundant mercy looks with allowance thereof, and in his great economy he has provided different glories, and ordained that all persons shall be judged according to the knowledge they possess, and the use they make of that knowledge, and according to the deeds done in the body, whether good or evil." End of quote. Elder Smith's explanation obviously relied on the doctrine that defines the degree of responsibility of persons who have not received the law. The Apostle Paul taught that we sin only when we know the law. In a clear elaboration of that principle, the prophet Jacob affirms that where there is no law given, there is no condemnation. As a result, he taught, the atonement satisfieth the demands of his justice upon all those who have not the law given to them. Similarly, the prophet Mormon declared that all